Hey, it's me, Saul. So, this is just gonna be a quick little introduction. This is really and truly a gameplay video. I want to showcase what I call the infinite loop that you can do with King Custennin and Noble Knight Brothers. So, the long story short, if you want a more in-depth explanation, then go check out the video that I recently did about how Noble Knight Brothers is the best card in my opinion in the entire Noble Knight archetype. But long story short, Noble Knight Brothers has the effect that when it is summoned to the field, normal summoned, you can special summon 2 other Noble Knight monsters from your hand. Now, it also has the effect that when there are 3 or more Noble Knight cards in your in your graveyard, you can shuffle all 3 back into the deck and then draw 1 card. So you get to go +1 and recycle your resources. Now, the reason why that loops so well with King Custennin is as follows. So at any stage of the game, imagine that you summon Noble Knight Brothers, no equip spells, no nothing. You summon Noble Knight Brothers onto the field, and let's say you have a Dristin or a Madrat or both on the field with you. Well, you then decide to XYZ summon into King Custennin. You get to bounce 2 cards that your opponent controls back into the hand, or you put it in, or you can put it in defense position and just use it defensively. You have options effectively. Now, hopefully you're winning the duel and you don't need to. It's fine. You win using Custennin and whatever other plays you have, but assume that Custennin gets destroyed by your opponent. Well, in that case, you get to go into Sacred Noble Knight of King Artorigus. The reason being, when Custennin is destroyed, it ranks up into either of the other 2 Noble Knight monsters, but you specifically want to go into Artorigus. So after you go into Artorigus, you get to equip whatever equip spells are in your graveyard, maybe even pop a monster if it's on your turn, or if you get to make it to your turn, and that's all good and fine. Quite frankly, if you land on Artorigus and you're doing okay, you don't need to use the infinite loop. It's completely fine. But assume that Artorigus also gets destroyed. Let's say your opponent just has that much disruption. That's where the infinite loop comes into play. Because when King Artorigus is destroyed, his effect is you can choose 1 Noble Knight card from your graveyard and special summon it. Now, what's currently in your graveyard? You have Madrat or Dristin, whatever you use for the XYZ summon, along with Noble Knight Brothers. So you summon Noble Knight Brothers and you land on that. Now, it's got 2,400 defense, and at this point, let's say your opponent, let's say you pass to your opponent and they took out your Custennin, and then they also took out your Sacred Noble Knight of King Artorigus. It's unlikely that they have that much disruption to mess you up to that extent, especially if you're using equip spells. So it's most likely, in more situations than not, you're going to land on, you're going to make it to the next turn with your Noble Knight Brothers. If you're afraid that that might not happen, then just run more than 1 in your deck. It doesn't matter. But anyway, the reason why this is excellent is it's now your turn. You start with Noble Knight Brothers on the field and you activate its effect. What's currently in your graveyard? The Sacred Noble Knight of King Artorigus, as well as the Noble Knight of King Custennin, and whatever you used for the XYZ summon alongside Noble Knight Brothers, the thing that it helped you to special summon onto the field, right? Which means that you've got 3 cards in your graveyard that you can now shuffle back into your deck. So you shuffle your Custennin back into the deck, you shuffle your Artorigus back into the deck, you shuffle whatever else back into the deck, and you draw 1 card. Now, there's a good chance you already have a monster in your hand, depending on how you manage your resources, but this going +1 also helps. And then let's say you're at a stage in the game where your trap card is active and in the graveyard ready to be procced, you can summon another monster to the field. And you get to do it all over. You get to do it all over again, basically, right? You can go right back into a Custennin and then do the exact same thing. Bounce 2 cards back to the hand. If Custennin gets destroyed, you go back into Artorigus. If Artorigus gets destroyed, you go back into Noble Knight Brothers and you shuffle back Artorigus, Custennin, and whatever you exceeds with back into the deck. You draw 1 card, so you're consistently going +1, and then you go right back into Custennin because Custennin has now been sent back into your extra deck. So really, you only need 1 copy of Custennin if you're using Noble Knight Brothers. They complement each other so well. It's not a perfect loop, right? Because even though you're going +1, let's say you draw the card that's for your turn and it's not a monster, you go +1, it's not a monster, and you don't have this in the graveyard already set up, and you have no monsters in your hand already, well, you can't make the loop because Noble Knight Brothers will require a card, to be on the field with it for the XYZ summon. But quite frankly, you have more monsters in your deck than you have spells and traps anyway. It's more like if you're drawing 2 cards, it's most likely that you're going to be able to draw a monster. And it's an extremely strong loop that you should try and take advantage of when you can. It's not always going to work for you, but in my experience, when it works super well. So I'm going to showcase a game where I was actually able to pull off this loop quite nicely. Please like the video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you want to see more Duel Links content and just more of me in general. Aren't I a nice person anyway?